While I was picking out a name for our future kid, she was picking out lingerie for her coworker. I found the receipt in her purse. She blamed hormones. I blamed her. I sent the receipt and the lingerie to his wife with a note that said, "Your turn." She filed for divorce the same day. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to post something like this. But here I am, sitting in a half-decorated nursery, staring at a wall I painted myself last weekend, wondering what the hell just happened to my life. My name's Mark. I'm 32, been married for 6 years to a woman I thought was the love of my life. Elena. Smart, sharp-tongued, gorgeous in that never-even-tries kind of way. She's 6 months pregnant with what was supposed to be our first child. A boy. We were going to name him Liam. She actually smiled when I said the name. One of the last real smiles I remember seeing on her face. For weeks, I'd been quietly planning this surprise nursery. I took time off work, spent evenings watching how-to videos on baby-safe paint, and ordered little forest animal decals because she once said she wanted something gender-neutral but not boring. I didn't tell her what I was working on. I thought maybe I could pull back the curtain one day, and she'd cry the good kind of tears. I imagined her walking in, hand on her belly, whispering, "He's gonna love it." I imagined a lot of things. That afternoon, she came home tired. She tossed her purse on the couch, kicked off her flats, and sighed like the world owed her more sleep. I offered to rub her feet. She said no. I offered tea. She said too bloated. She wasn't cruel, just distant. And it had been like that for a while. At first, I chalked it up to the pregnancy. Hormones, nausea, mood swings. The books warned about that stuff. I was ready for it. But something about this distance felt different. Like I was watching someone play the role of my wife, hitting all the marks with no feeling behind them. After she went to bed early that night, I was cleaning up the living room. Her purse was still on the couch. Usually, she's obsessive about locking it up, always zipping it shut like it holds state secrets. But this time it was open. I didn't go digging. I swear I didn't. But when I picked it up to put it on the table, something slipped out, some shiny, crinkled paper. A receipt. Folded up like trash. I don't know why I looked at it. Some gut instinct. Maybe I just expected it to be for prenatal vitamins or stretch mark cream. It wasn't. Victoria's Secret. 3 items. One of them, a lace teddy. Black. Another was some kind of pleasure oil. I stood there staring at it, trying to rationalize. Maybe she bought it for our anniversary? No, that didn't make sense. We hadn't touched each other in weeks. And if she bought it for herself, why the shipping address? That was what made my stomach twist. The receipt included a shipping address that wasn't ours. Same city, different zip, different name. I memorized it in seconds. Something sharp was crawling up my spine. My heart was pounding so loud I thought she'd hear it from the bedroom. I carefully slid the receipt back into the purse like I hadn't seen a thing. But I had, and I couldn't unsee it. That night, I lay awake on the edge of the bed while she slept soundly next to me, hand resting on her belly, that same peaceful smile she used to give me after movie nights. But it wasn't for me this time, and I knew it. Some people describe betrayal as a punch to the gut. For me, it was slow acid. A burn you can't feel at first, but it eats through everything. The next morning, I kissed her on the forehead before she left for work, and then I sat down at her laptop. I told myself I wasn't going to snoop, but that was a lie, because whatever line I used to have, the one between trust and paranoia, it vanished the second I saw the name on that receipt. And what I found next made me realize I hadn't been building a nursery. I'd been building a home for someone else's fantasy. I wish I could say I hesitated, that I sat there staring at her laptop, debating whether or not to cross that line. But the truth is, once I opened it and saw she hadn't even logged out of her email, I was already too far gone. Whatever moral boundary used to matter to me didn't exist anymore. Not after that receipt. I didn't need to scroll far. Her inbox was mostly work stuff, promotional junk, pregnancy newsletters. And then, buried between 20% off baby bottles and your maternity leave checklist, was a subject line that punched me straight in the chest. Room confirmed, Saturday night. From a hotel downtown. Not one we'd ever been to. We hadn't even had a date night in 2 months. I clicked. It was a confirmation for a king room with champagne service and late checkout. No mention of her name, but her email had been used to reserve it. The reservation was for 2 weeks ago, the same weekend she told me she was staying late at work for a quarterly inventory review. There was an attachment. I almost didn't want to open it, but I did. A scanned photo of the little hotel gift note. Can't wait for our hotel night again. This one's softer. I didn't breathe for a full 30 seconds. Again? Again. That word looped in my head like a curse. Like a scream underwater. I wasn't done. I clicked over to her sent folder. That's when I saw a string of emails to a contact labeled D. No full name, just D. The most recent one had no subject. Just a photo. It was Elena, my wife, wearing the necklace I gave her on our anniversary. The gold one with the tiny emerald, because it was her birthstone. Except she wasn't wearing it with a dress or a blouse. She was wearing it with the black lace teddy from the receipt. In a mirror selfie. In a hotel bathroom I didn't recognize. And beneath the photo, this one fits better than the red. There were older emails. Flirty banter. Inside jokes. One that said, "Wish I could wake up to you kicking me. Not this kid, lol." I felt like the floor fell out under me. My jaw locked. My fists clenched before I even knew it. I wasn't angry. I was buried alive. I sat there staring at the screen for I don't know how long. Could have been 10 minutes. Could have been an hour. I was just stuck, floating somewhere between disbelief and the kind of fury you can't describe without sounding insane. She was 6 months pregnant, with my child, and she was spending weekends in a hotel with D, laughing about how he should be the one waking her up. I needed to know who he was. I went back to the photo, zoomed in on the bathroom mirror. There, faintly, in the reflection, was a second toothbrush. Black. Sleek. Not ours. I clicked through her contacts, and that's when I found his full name. Derek M. Coworker. Same department. She once told me he was loud, dramatic, probably cheating on his wife. I didn't think much of it. She even made fun of his shirts once, called him a living Axe commercial. Guess it turns out she liked the smell. I checked his social media. There he was, smiling in front of a boat with his wife and a little girl. Probably 3 years old. I stared at the photo, wondering if his wife, Rachel, had any idea her husband was the guy who got my pregnant wife black lace and champagne. That night, Elena came home like nothing was wrong. Said traffic was hell. Kissed me on the cheek. Picked at her food. Then said she was too tired and went straight to bed. She didn't even notice the nursery paint can sitting in the hallway, or the baby name book I left on the kitchen counter. And for the first time since we'd met, I didn't follow her to bed. I just sat on the floor, alone, holding a list of baby names. One of them, Liam, was circled in red. She had glowed when I said that name. But now I knew. It wasn't for us. It was for them. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next. I didn't shout. Didn't throw her stuff out the window. Didn't wake her up with some cinematic, "How could you?" Instead, I went quiet. It wasn't cowardice. It was calculation. I've never been the dramatic type. But I believe in consequences. And this needed to sting. Not just for her. For him. For all the smirks and secrets and private jokes shared at my expense while I painted walls and Googled stroller brands. So I started planning. First, I dug deeper. Checked timestamps, receipts, even her Uber history. She'd been using work trips as cover. I traced 4 separate hotel visits over the last 2 months, each with a little confirmation email from her to him. I screenshotted everything. Every "can't wait to see you again." Every "bring the red one this time." The same red one she told me no longer fit over her belly. Then I found Rachel, his wife. Took less than 5 minutes. She'd commented on one of his posts a week ago, something about family movie night and popcorn cuddles. I clicked her profile. It was all there. Photos of their daughter. Anniversary posts. A caption that read, "Still my person. Always will be." I didn't even feel sad. Just disgusted. I printed the hotel receipt. The lingerie one, too. And then I did something that I think people like Elena never expect. I took the lingerie she never wore at home, the same one she bought for him, out of the closet. Still in the box. Still with the tag. I folded it neatly. Placed it in a plain brown envelope. Tucked the receipts inside. Then, I wrote a note on a yellow sticky. No threats. No dramatics. Just, "Your turn." The next morning, after Elena left for work, I drove to Derek and Rachel's neighborhood. I didn't ring the doorbell. Just slid the envelope into their mailbox and left. 3 hours later, the storm hit. Elena called. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. 9 missed calls. Finally, she texted. "Did you do something?" 10 minutes later. "Mark, Derek's wife found out. She's losing it. She's threatening divorce." Then, "I need to talk to you. Now. Please." I didn't reply. Instead, I ordered lunch. I ate outside. In the sun. That evening, when Elena walked in, she looked pale. Like she'd seen a ghost. Her blouse was wrinkled. Her bag half unzipped. Eyes red, but not from tears. More like panic. She stood in the doorway, blinking at me. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through the baby name book again. She asked, barely above a whisper, "Did you send something?" I didn't answer. She walked closer. "Mark, did you tell Rachel?" I turned a page. "You were at work inventory that night, right? The night you told me you'd be late." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I looked up. Calm. "You lied to me while carrying our son." That cracked her. She started crying, like full-body sobs, the kind that echo through the chest and shake the ribs. But I didn't move. She kept saying it was a mistake, that it was just a mental lapse, that pregnancy hormones made everything feel distant. I looked her in the eye and said something I never thought I would. "No, You made a choice. And now she has one too. That was the end of it. I went upstairs, slept in the guest room. And the next morning, before she woke up, I started packing a bag. Because if she thought a couple tears would fix this, she didn't know me at all. By the time I got halfway through packing, Elena was awake. I heard her come to the doorway, but I didn't look up. Just kept folding shirts and setting them neatly into the duffel like I had all the time in the world. Because honestly, I did. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel rushed or confused or helpless. I felt done. Quietly, fully done. She stood there, arms crossed over her bump like she was shielding it from me. You're seriously leaving? She asked. Not surprised, just desperate. I nodded once. That's when she said it. You're just going to walk away from your son? I stopped folding. Not because of guilt, because of how fast she played that card. Like the baby was some shield she could hide behind, even now. I'm not walking away from him, I said. I'm walking away from you. Then she tried a different tactic. She stepped into the room, voice cracking. I didn't know I was pregnant when it started. I swear, I was just confused. We weren't even connecting anymore, and you were always at work or obsessing about the nursery or whatever. I felt alone. I turned to face her. Calm. You told me to paint it forest green. I painted it forest green. You told me you liked the woodland theme. I printed out fox decals. I spent 3 weekends building a crib from scratch. She started crying again. I didn't think it would mean anything, she whispered. It was just attention. I didn't think it would get so far. I stared at her. You were half naked in a hotel mirror wearing lingerie he bought. That's not a mistake. That's choreography. That shut her up. I zipped the duffel and slung it over my shoulder. Then she said something I'll never forget. I don't even know if it's yours. Like she wanted to hurt me. Like if I wasn't going to stay, she'd burn the rest of me on my way out. I didn't flinch. I just said, okay, and walked out the door. No yelling. No fighting. Just silence. Later that evening, she sent me a voice message sobbing that she didn't mean that, and of course it's yours, and I just didn't want to lose you. But she'd already lost me the second she blamed our unborn child for her cheating. I called my sister and told her I needed a place to crash. She didn't even ask why. Just said, I'll make up the guest room. And as I lay in that unfamiliar bed, listening to the ceiling fan spin, I realized I wasn't afraid of losing Elena. I was afraid of raising a child in a house built on lies. The next morning, I booked a paternity test. Because if I was going to be a father, I needed to know the truth. The clinic was quiet. No crying babies, no chatter in the waiting room. Just fluorescent lights and the occasional beeping from some machine in the back. I sat there filling out paperwork, my hands steady, but my head running in circles. There was a time I would have felt guilty for even thinking about a paternity test. Like I'd be betraying her or doubting my own kid. But that time passed the second she dropped that line. I don't even know if it's yours. Even if she hadn't meant it, she said it to hurt me. And it worked. The swab test was quick. Clinical. Swab the inside of your cheek, seal it in an envelope, walk away like it's nothing. But that little sample held the future of everything I'd spent years dreaming about. A name. A nursery. A little boy I hadn't even met yet. I moved in with my sister that day. She didn't ask questions, just stocked the fridge with my favorite beer and put fresh sheets on the guest bed. She didn't treat me like I was broken, just like I was someone worth protecting for a while. Elena, on the other hand, was unraveling. The texts didn't stop. At first, they were desperate. Please come home. We can fix this. You're still the father, no matter what happened. Then came the guilt. You said you'd never abandon me. Do you want to traumatize the baby before he's even born? Then the threats. If you go through with the test, I'll never forgive you. One text read, you're letting them win. You're letting her destroy us. By her, she meant Rachel, Derek's wife. Turns out Rachel did file for divorce. I'd found her Instagram again through a friend's account. Her bio now read, free and healing. One day at a time. A post showed her and her daughter on a hiking trail with the caption, strong girls don't beg. They rebuild. Meanwhile, Elena was crashing. She posted some sob story TikTok. One of those softly lit, piano music in the background, tearful monologues about how hard it is to feel abandoned while pregnant. Claimed she was being punished for one mistake and begged people not to judge until they'd walked in her shoes. But TikTok doesn't play nice. People weren't buying it. Within hours, someone commented, didn't your husband send the proof to the guy's wife? Sit this one out. Another wrote, you played house with 2 men. Don't act surprised when one leaves. I didn't comment. Didn't like. Didn't share. Just watched. A week later, the test results came in. I opened the email on my sister's back porch. The air was cool. Coffee in hand. Heart steady. Probability of paternity, 99.9999%. I was the father. The relief hit me like a wave. Not because it changed anything with Elena, but because now I knew this kid was mine. I could love him fully, without a single crack in the foundation. But there was something else, too. A kind of grief. For everything I thought this family would be. The quiet mornings. The bedtime stories. The tiny socks and first steps. All of it, now split down the middle. I called a lawyer. Started the process for full custody. Not out of spite, but because I knew what kind of environment I didn't want my son raised in. Elena tried to paint me as cruel. Told mutual friends I was stealing her child and turning into someone else. But when my lawyer presented the messages, the hotel records, the screenshots, and the TikTok meltdown, there wasn't much left of her version of events. I wasn't trying to destroy her, but I was done protecting her. She still did the photo shoot. White flowing gown, hands gently cradling her belly, some dried flowers in her hair. The photographer posted a sneak peek on their Instagram, captioned it something like strength and grace in every chapter. What the picture didn't show was what was missing. Me. There was no partner behind her, no arms wrapped around her waist, no father-to-be kissing the bump. Just Elena, standing in a field at sunset, completely alone, trying to hold a life together with well-angled lighting and carefully chosen filters. I didn't comment, didn't share, didn't even flinch. At that point, we were weeks into the custody filings. The court had granted me a temporary agreement, giving me full guardianship after the baby was born, pending a hearing. Elena's lawyer had tried to argue emotional manipulation, but the judge wasn't buying it. Not after seeing the evidence I had. The lies. The emotional spiral. The public meltdown. Elena had no job, no stable support, no partner, and she'd burned through every bridge she had. Even her own parents, once proud and over-involved, were keeping their distance. Her mom emailed me privately, asking if I needed help with anything for the baby. She wrote, "We didn't raise her for this. If you ever want him to know his grandparents, our door is open." I didn't respond. Not out of spite. Just didn't know what to say. Meanwhile, I'd moved into a modest rental house. Nothing fancy, but it had a second bedroom. I painted it the same forest green. Reordered the same Fox decals. Put together the crib. This time with music playing in the background and no one looking over my shoulder. And on the shelf, I placed the baby name book. I never told her, but I kept the name. Liam. Because the betrayal wasn't his fault. None of it was. Elena texted a week before her due date. No drama. No please. Just, "I'll put you on the birth plan as primary guardian. I'm signing the papers." It didn't feel like victory. Just like another door closing behind me. The day Liam was born, I was there. She barely looked at me. But when they handed him to me, and he opened those tiny eyes, I knew. None of her mess was going to touch him. Not if I had anything to say about it. She didn't hold him long. Said she was tired. Asked the nurse to let her rest. Later, someone told me she cried after we left. I don't know if it was about him, or about everything else she lost. But I do know this. I didn't need to scream, or fight, or destroy anything. All I did was send the truth to the right person. And that one move? It ended 2 marriages, exposed 2 liars, and gave one little boy a clean start. Funny thing is, people like her always think they're in control. But the moment I found that receipt, she'd already lost. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.